Welcome to the Fantasy NASCAR podcast. It's a Monday Daytona day, the 11 a.m. Xfinity race, then the 4 in the afternoon Cup Series race. We're going to talk Cup Series, Daytona, go over the drivers, possible builds, possible scenarios. The hard podcast is out of the way. That's the Xfinity Series 1. Xfinity is always the most difficult because you have to pick drivers that you're not really in love with. And the reality is you're just trying to pick people who don't wreck. Game theory, DFS nonsense aside, leverage, ownership. We could talk on and on, but we would just be deceiving ourselves and lying to ourselves. In reality, you're simply trying to pick drivers that are not going to wreck. And nothing really changes here in the Cup Series either. We could talk about, well, everybody's going to play so-and-so, so I don't want to play so-and-so. Well, if so-and-so doesn't wreck, then you look like a fool. But if so-and-so wrecks, then you're like, well, I was playing the DFS leverage game, and I'm just the smartest DFS player in the world. You simply picked a driver that didn't wreck. Congratulations. You flipped the coin. You spun the wheel. You got out your magical talisman, and luck was on your side. Fortuna favored you. Here we go. So let's try to pick some drivers that don't wreck. Now, the first thing that I'll do before we go into picking drivers that don't wreck is, on average, went through here and just wanted to really quickly tally the cut line of a top 6 score. So what you see is, what is the cut line if you wanted to finish with the top 6 DFS score? Went through all the races, Talladega, Atlanta. You see it's a pretty similar pattern. A little bit higher for Daytona, but the pattern's pretty consistent. And I think it's safe to say you need 55 fantasy points. So for any of these drivers, if they cannot score 55 fantasy points, probably should just wipe them off the board immediately. So we'll look. If they are highlighted, then they're going to get to that number. If they are not, then they're not getting to that number. Who can score over 55 fantasy points is what we're asking. And Logano, even if he gets 10 hog or dominator points and wins the race, he's not going to get there. McDowell, Reddick, I just don't see him getting there. I mean, Logano really has to go hog wild in this race. Bell has a chance if he leads laps. Same thing with Elliott, Cindric. Hamlin's where it gets a little interesting. He also, though, is going to need laps. That gets him to 60 fantasy points. And you can dial that down a little bit. It's not unreasonable to think that he gets 8 dominator points or hog points in this race and wins the race. Among drivers starting inside the top 10, it's probably the only thing that I would go with. I am a little leery of him leading a bunch of laps. We have seen in the past where Hamlin just says, getting a little hairy around here. I'm going to slide to the back. And remember, we got stages and we've got cautions and we got all kinds of things that are going to move around the grid. Just because they're starting up front doesn't mean they're going to run in up front. That doesn't mean they're going to have the best opportunity to lead laps. They really only have the best opportunity to lead laps in stage 1. Like I said, Hamlin has been known to just bail out of the draft. We also have stage breaks where people are going to make some gains and there's going to be some losses. And so when it comes to stage 2 and 3, we don't know where Hamlin's going to be or Cindric is going to be. We don't know if they're really going to have the opportunity to lead laps. This is really aggressive right here to give them these hog projections. The reality is this should be dialed down, and then that would likely take them below the cut line, even if they do have a good race. Hard for me to roster anyone in the top 10. Xfinity Series, you want to talk me into Austin Hill? I don't think that's a hard conversation. Xfinity Series, you want to twist my arm into rostering John Hunter Nemechek? I don't think that's too tough of a conversation either. That can be had, and I think you could definitely sway me in that direction. Cup Series, much harder to convince me to roster Bell, Elliott, Cindric, Hamlin. Bell's been a pretty good super speedway racer in terms of finishing. Chase Elliott, motivated. Hamlin. All qualified, all in good equipment. But I just don't see the scenario playing out for them where they score enough fantasy points. We drop down into 9 through 15. The sheet does not say these guys qualify. You can see with their projection, we got scores from 51 to 54 to 51. Hocevar, if he finishes in third, which is probably really liberal, really aggressive, still doesn't score enough fantasy points. Nemechek finishing third, and I'm giving him some fast laps. Still not getting above that cut line. Jones, same thing. Harrison Burton, getting the podium. These guys pretty much have to win. And I'm not going into this race predicting them to win. I mean, it's one thing to predict whether a driver wrecks or not. And that's not always the easiest thing. But it's easy to predict who wins these races. Even a super speedway race. I feel pretty comfortable. I would feel confident making a bet that Burton doesn't win. That Suarez doesn't win. Smith doesn't win. Even Ty Gibbs. I just don't think they can finish close enough to the front, basically win, to qualify for a top 6 score. They can have a good day. They can score a lot of fantasy points. But if you're looking for a GPP winner, I have a hard time imagining that anybody from 9 to 15 gets there. It opens up a little bit when we look at 16 through 25. Ken Keselowski podium. Yep. That's 56. He gets there. Same could be said of Larson, Byron, Buescher, Briscoe. Doesn't even need to podium at this point because we've moved back further from the front. And so a top 5 shouldn't be a problem. Top 5 from Chase, Chastain, Haley. Haley might be a little out of the question. We'll see what this Rick Ware car has. We have seen Rick Ware cars finish up in the front at these races, especially if there's chaos. But if I were to be a little worried about any of these drivers from 16 to 25, then obviously that's going to be Justin Haley. We know his Xfinity experience. You know he does actually have a Cup Series win with Spire. But all that being said, Justin Haley would be my least favorite. So if you are going Galaxy Brain and going DFS theory, whatever, then yeah, Justin Haley is going to pop to the top for you. I hope that my mic is working this time. Otherwise, I guess someone would have said something in the chat. I possibly imagine. Jimmy Johnson, Bubba Wallace, Ryan Preece. Preece has had a rough go of it at the super speedways of late. We've talked about this before in that I think Preece was very passive and patient and polite. And JTG Daugherty had a plan of running in the back and surviving. Now that he's with SHR, maybe he's pushing it a little bit more and wrecking. Even when we do look back and say, oh, this guy's a great plate racer. You look back, the results aren't really that great. You just didn't have very high standards for Ryan Preece. He does have 3 top 10s at Daytona. But then he also has these finishes of 10th to 18th. Like, it's good. He survived the wreck. But 10th to 18th doesn't win GPPs. Now, it helps you if he's starting 38th. It's good, but he's not starting 38th. We need a top 5 out of Preece. Well, probably about top 7, I would say, right? 7th place gets into 57. He can definitely do it. If it comes down to, let's say, Bubba Wallace and Ryan Preece both don't wreck, I would much rather have Bubba Wallace. If Jimmy Johnson, Wallace, and Preece don't wreck, all these guys are motivated. I believe Preece is going to push more than he normally does, but that probably doesn't come anywhere close to how hard Wallace pushes. That probably doesn't come to how close. Jimmy Johnson isn't racing for stage points. He doesn't have to be there in those stupid situations in the stage 1 and the end of stage 2. he can lay back a little bit, not be as aggressive, not have to make silly moves. Wallace and Priest could easily be doing that and trying to get a little bit. These guys care about playoff points for whatever reason. And we have seen in previous seasons where it has come down to some of those points at the end of the year. Coffee NASCAR doesn't get any better. Yeah, I know. How about that? But this is, where things start getting heated up. We look at our top 6 again. You can see a lot of the previous lineups, but as a gentle reminder, average starting position is 26th. Average finish is 6th. So while we do want to chase place differential, we want to be cognizant of, is this driver going to get close enough to the typical spot that we need to get to that 52 fantasy point? And then sometimes you just say, I don't care. I give up. Just give me Anthony Alfredo. What do the random picks say? Just give me Ryan Priest. 20th back. Give me Todd Gilliland. See, every time the sheet gets edited, it just gives you a rando. Chase Briscoe, David Reagan. I don't even want to think about it. And you also could say, hey, get Denny Hamlin out of here. Don't even put him in the lineups. Fun little thing. Okay. Truex probably shouldn't be in the pool. But, can he finish at 8th? Yes. Does he tend to finish 8th? No. His survival rate at these things is atrocious. Let me see if I can go over here and find that. 18 times he's finished outside the top 20. It's terrible. 33rd survival ranking. Just awful. But it's a super speedway. Any day could be his day. You can't eliminate him. Maybe, here we go, leverage ownership. People are well aware that Martin Truex Jr. is terrible. They're not going to play him, so I'm going to play him. And then he wrecks for the 19th time. All right. How'd that work out for you? But if he doesn't wreck, you'll do your victory lap and say, well, I was playing game theory. Yeah. AJ with Colleague. Be interesting to see their approach. This is a part-time situation, so they're going to be aggressive at the end. Maybe they are smart throughout the race so they can attack at the end. I kind of like that strategy. I like that play. Colleague wants trophies. They're always talking about that. This is not a full-time ride or a full-time driver. So part-timers, you got to love them. Corey LaJoy, going to be someone everyone wants to circle around. No problem with that. Is he capable of finishing in 8th? Yes. He's done it plenty of times. He knows what he's doing. He has said on the record that if he is not in the round of 8 in the playoffs, then this will be a disappointing season. That, my friends, is bold. I expect Spire to be better this season, although expanding to 3 cars isn't always the greatest option. And also expanding your truck team, you are spreading your resources thin. We have seen in the past where this has hurt teams. But at the same time, it also speaks volumes to what they are expecting. They have a very strong connection with Hendrick. If I remember correctly, one of their crew chiefs, or the guy that runs Spire now, was a part of Jimmy Johnson's championship run throughout all those years. I got to look up his name. So they have brought in a lot of the key minds. They've got the sponsorships and the resources apparently to do this. And if Corey LaJoy is saying they're going to make the round of 8, then it's going to be very interesting. And if that's the goal, you got to get in the playoffs. And the best way for Corey LaJoy to get into the playoffs are the 6 super speedway races. He knows that. I don't know if he was worried about stage points. Corey LaJoy has to know that if this team is going to make the playoffs, it's probably not going to be pointing its way in. So stage points are going to be pretty much irrelevant throughout most of the season, I would assume. What he needs is a win. This is his best place to win. And so you love that. What we like about AJ and Corey, they're going to push it at the end. 1, we need drivers to survive. 2, we need them to push it a little bit more, be a little bit more aggressive. make one more move on that last lap. Give me 2 more spots. Utah, give me 2. Give me 3 more spots on that last lap. Is Josh Berry going to be the guy on the last lap who really is going to go aggressive and get those extra 2 spots that make all the difference? Maybe not. If Truex isn't leading and he's running in 8th, is he really going to take 3 wide and side draft? And I don't know if he will or he won't. Don't really need to discuss Blaney. Everyone's going to play Blaney. Have no problem playing Blaney. Clearly exceeds that 55 mark. Austin Dillon, if he survives the carnage, very likely should finish inside the top 10. That is a winning 6 lineup. And if we get enough carnage, which we usually do, then these guys really pop hot on the radar as long as they're not wrecking out. And they knock out pretty much all of these guys who, we said earlier, Brad can get over the 50 mark pretty easily. It's legit. He can get there. Larson, Byron. Well, these guys can all qualify and have their great day, but just simply miss out because there was enough carnage and 3 of these drivers made it through. And you've got pretty good cars starting outside the top 30. Gillen's probably not going to be it for me. I don't see him pushing and being really aggressive. We see him have good days at super speedways, but not the greatest day. The Daytona 2022 will work. Hasn't been very good at Daytona. If you want to make that difference in your mind. But I don't know if he's going to get enough finishing position points. I mean, simply, you used to ask yourself, is there going to be a bunch of wrecks? Okay. Well, if there's a bunch of wrecks, which one of these drivers pushes the hardest and goes forward? Gillen's not at the top of that list. Stenhouse is at the top of that list. Ryan Blaney is at the top of that list. If we get wrecks that wipes out the field, and these guys are ones to survive, Dillon's pushing, Busch is pushing, Stenhouse is pushing, Gillen's laying up. Herbst probably going to lay up. Probably not going to see. I mean, you see that he survives this Talladega race and he ends up 10th. Great day for him. Tons of fantasy points. But if a couple others in the back don't wreck, they're going to finish closer to the front and they're going to take his spot. And he's just going to have a good day that's mostly irrelevant. But that doesn't mean you don't have to play him. If there's wrecks, it could take out plenty of these guys in the back. So again, if we are boiling things down, we're just trying to pick the guys that don't wreck. Hemrick, if he doesn't wreck, I don't know how aggressive he will be. You got to think he wants to win more than one race in his life, and this is a good opportunity to do that. I don't mind the play. It's a colored car. They are good in the Xfinity Series. They should be fine in this. Noah Gragson, you're playing your motivations or whatnot. He's got plenty of experience. He's had good finishes in beard equipment in Cup Series Super Speedway races. He's got Xfinity 2 Super Speedway wins. I have no problem playing Gragson. Alfredo, tend to worry about it a little bit. Reagan, he should be fine. Jamin Reagan, that works for me. All right, that's probably going to almost do it unless you have any questions. You're jamming in all these guys in the back. I would expect these 4 to be the most popular. So, and that's fine. I don't even really care about the game theory. The likelihood that all 4 are going to survive the wrecks, probably not going to happen. So you take 3 of the 4, or you take 2 of the 4. You can take some of these guys here as well. There's enough flexibility back here from 27th back that I think you can build your own random lineup and be different. You're simply picking cars that don't wreck. Now, if you really feel the need to get different, then you still have between 16 and 25 a really good assortment. If you really want to get galaxy brain, you look at some of these guys up front. But I think that when it's all said and done, even if guys up front have good days, it's not going to matter because there'll be enough wrecks, or just simply one of the drivers is going to drive his way through the field with stage breaks, cautions, green flag pit cycling. They run together anyway. It's like you don't necessarily need chaos for Blaney, Dillon, Busch, or Stenhouse to get to the front. They're going to re-rack the field. You pick up 10 spots in a run, it's not that hard to do. Any of these guys can do it. And with that being the idea, then basically anyone 20, 25th, or further back, that's where I would expect the optimal lineup to go, because they really don't even need much more than a top 10, top 12 finish. I guess I should go 5 more minutes, but I don't think I really need to. Any questions as we wrap up? Silence from the crowd. The Metallica guy's here, though. That's pretty cool. Monica's here. That's pretty cool. Some long timers. Been with me forever. It's always nice. It's always nice to be appreciated and not to have scared everybody away. There is a temptation to go into this 16 to 25 range, and I wouldn't really hate taking one of these drivers because they can score enough and end up as the 6th guy, because there's no guarantee that the drivers 30 in the back are going to survive all the carnage. Half the field's going to get wiped out, so that means half of the drivers in the 30, half of the drivers in the 20s. And if one of these guys finishes up front, then they'll be, one of the 6 drivers. Let's just squeeze into that winning lineup. But that means I'm really asking them to probably win the race. So Haley probably not going to win. I could see Byron winning. Larson doesn't seem to ever be able to knock the monkey off his back. Brad Keselowski, maybe his glory days are behind him. Can he really win? Ross Chastain could win this race. Chase Briscoe could win this race. I don't know. If Jimmy Johnson had some sort of connection to Taylor Swift, then I'd say sure. The government has scripted it, but I don't think he does. Actually, you know what? Well, there's a counter narrative here. This is going to go into the base part out. I don't know if you saw the video with Jimmy Johnson and Creed. So while our government, the deep state, may not like the rise of Creed again, the rise of Creed did help with the Houston Astros become champions. Or no, was it the Texas Rangers or whatever it was? Wasn't there something that happened there where Creed became this phenomenon during the summer and the team that like Creed won the World Series? I can't really remember exactly what. I think it was Texas. Well, Jimmy Johnson filmed a video with Creed at Daytona yesterday. So if you want to go with that, that's part of our simulation that we live in. Fine. Oh my God, that's what we're talking about. Noah Gragson, I'm sure he has to be hungry for a victory after the off-track incidents that led to him not racing for a while. Gregson's had some issues. Gregson's family has had some issues. I'm not going to go into the stuff that's happened to him and around his family. He was fun to watch those last couple years in the Xfinity Series. Hopefully he'll be fun to watch in the Cup Series. And all of these guys probably have skeletons in their closets and have dark money backing them. No, I don't know about that. The evil, terrible Herbst gas empire. You don't want to know what they've done. They've got bodies buried under those gas pumps. And then again, like Daniel Hemrick, this guy must be like the Epstein of NASCAR. He just keeps getting ride after ride. Like, but what do? You're not a good race car driver. Why are people giving you billions of dollars for investing? Oh, don't worry about it. People just like me. Yeah. You got photos of them locked up in a vault somewhere. Daniel Hemrick's blackmailed the entire NASCAR community. And so he just gets ride after ride after ride. Because where else is that money coming from? I don't know. Allegedly. I don't get a lawsuit here. Some sort of defamation claim on Daniel Hemrick. I'm joking. That's going to do it. When I start joking about stuff, that means it's time to wrap up. I'll go with drivers in the 30s, sprinkle in some of these in the 20s, and I'll probably be too much of a coward to go with these guys up front. I might take Chastain. I might take Jimmy for old time's sake. I'm not playing the guys up front. I'll be the square mark and play the drivers starting in the back, stacking in the back. That's me. Thanks for joining me on a Monday morning. I hope you have a wonderful Monday work week and you get home in time to watch some racing.